Hello, once again to the channel. This is Three Basket Living. My name is Tom, and I just want to try to help encourage some people not to put all your eggs in one basket. Have some forms of redundancy. Today I'm going to be sharing what I do when it comes to controlling the squash bugs or stink bugs and other garden pests in my garden. I'm doing so because I've been inquired by neighbors, friends, and family, and I was just talking to a gentleman about a week ago that I had newly met in the area, and he was talking about how he's having such a struggle here for the last couple of years, in particular with the squash bugs. And I've heard rumors many people have problems with those. They're not a fun thing to deal with. So with that, and watching some of the videos on these prepper style channels, which I'm all for people trying to wake other people up. But what I notice on these a lot of these channels is they're talking about flashlights and knives and hatchets and ARs and AKs, stockpiling the hell out of things like that, optics, which I'm a fan of. All of these things, and they all have their relevance and their importance. But while everybody is stocked up with things like this and all geared up in preparation for the zombie apocalypse, so they can defend their supplies and their food sources and their gardens from the two-legged zombies, what's going to happen is they're not going to give much attention and a time consideration to the four-legged, six-legged, and eight-legged zombies that will annihilate your food supply. And it really doesn't matter who gets in there and annihilates it and takes it away or destroys it, whether they're two-legged or eight-legged. The bottom line is, if you don't protect your food supply or your garden, it's same, right? You got to be able to provide for yourself and yours. So stockpiling up out your ears on things like this ain't going to do you a damn bit of good when it comes to those garden pests, those 4, 6, and 8-legged zombies that you can be as sure of will come back year after year. And they're obviously going to be a continuing problem, and you need a way to be prepared for those. So I'm going to share with you what I do, and a homemade, organic, natural, or more natural pesticide recipe, how to use it, how to apply it, or give you some thoughts and tips based on my experience that I think can help you and benefit you. And I get it. I totally get it. You're seeing this on your device, on the World Wide Web, and there's got to be thousands of concoctions out there and recipes, and I've had my fair share of trying them to no avail. Actually, some of these things I think actually fed the bugs and encouraged their growth and their population. Well, I'm here to tell you, you can't trust anything nowadays, just about, online. And I'm going to tell you, don't trust me. You need to find out and test it for yourself. Don't just assume because I'm saying it that it works. I don't trust anybody. I run experiments to find out for myself on whether or not it's something that I want to put in my arsenal when it comes to being prepared for the onslaught of the eight-legged zombies year after year. So preppers, I would encourage you to pay attention because you're going to like this. This ain't something that I come up with on my own. I learned this almost 2 decades ago from a guy by the name of Howard Garrett. Now, I've tweaked it a little bit, and I'm going to give some reasons why. But he's gained my trust and respect over the years. He likes doing things organic. I used to listen to him on the radio when I was down in Texas for years. And he introduced me to something, and I'm going to pass it along and just let you know what I do. I am happy, I am successful, and I stock up on these items. So if you want to stick around and learn what I got to say and try it out for yourself, don't just take my word for it. I'll be right back. If you got it all figured out and you don't want to hear what I got to say, I'll just say, have a nice day. Don't forget to share and giddy up, Buttercup. I'm going to get a table set up and I'll be right back. All right, I think I got everything set up here that I want to talk about real quick. So I'm going to go over this recipe. I'm going to give you the recipe. We're going to go over all the ingredients. I want to talk about the application of this, and I want to talk about the cost effectiveness and the efficiency of it. Hopefully I don't forget to cover all these things. Now we're kind of focused on the squash bug right now, but it really is applicable to all your garden pests, because there's nothing worse than going out there and doing what people still claim to be one of the most effective ways of dealing with squash bugs, and that's going out there hand picking. I've done that before, and I'm here to tell you that that stuff sucks. It's nasty and tedious and very time consuming, and it's not very efficient. So there's other ways that can be just as effective. Now, when I'm saying effective, what I mean by that is, I mean that when you go in there and you get a squash bug and you pick them up with your hands, one or two if they're mating, and you throw them in that pan of soapy water, or you just pop them in your hand, you know, get all that nasty stuff all over you or your gloves, it's 100% effective. Here's another thing that I have found, and you may have seen online somewhere or heard from other people, is this product right here. I'm not going to call it out by name. Most people are very familiar with it. This here, I can tell you, based on my own experience, is 100% effective when it comes to dealing with squash bugs and other garden pests. If you make contact with them, you know, taking this and I'm going to say about 1 ounce to 2 ounces of this to a gallon of water, and you go spray them, 100% effective. But the problem with this is that it's toxic. It's toxic to you, it's toxic to your plants. Although it kills the bugs, it is toxic to the plants because this is a detergent. This is not a traditional or true soap, and there is a difference. So if you want to go looking that up, you'll find out doing your own research that this is a detergent, chemical detergent, and not a true soap. So it's toxic, and it causes more harm than good if you're spraying on your plants. What it does, it eats away or deteriorates that protective coating on your foliage of all your plants, which is part of the plant's defense mechanism against disease and things like that, and the pests. So this here works, but I do not recommend it if you want to go natural and organic. That's what we're going to concentrate on. So I wanted to find something, you know, that was natural and organic, and I just happened to come across it because I was looking for something to deal with fire ants about 2 decades ago. And I used to listen to this guy named Howard Garrett down there in Texas. It was on the radio. And he introduced me to a product that I was unfamiliar with and I'd never used before. And ever since I've been utilizing that, almost 15 years, 20 years maybe, somewhere in that time frame, I couldn't be more satisfied with that product. It's natural and organic. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to get straight to it and get with the recipe. And if you want to move on from there, you can. But I think I got some tips that might be beneficial for you based on my personal experience. So here's what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get a jug. Now I got a little bit left in here and I need to mix up another batch. This is a 1 gallon jug, and I'm going to start off with it, and I'm going to just leave what's in there because that's not going to hurt me, and I'm not going to dump it out on the ground. Ingredient number 1. This is what Howard introduced to me. I got a lot of things on the table here, but you'll understand why in a minute. Is this product right here. It's actually one of these 2 products here. These are just 2 different brands, same stuff. What this is 100% cold pressed orange oil, 100% natural. So to this gallon jug here, what I want to do, even though I got a little bit in there, I'm not going to be too concerned about it. I'll just maybe shorten it. I want to put 2 ounces of cold pressed orange oil, all natural and organic. And I'm going to go to the halfway mark and my 4 ounce mark here, about yay, and put that in my jug. Well, after I spill half of it. The next ingredient I will utilize, and Howard used to utilize, I think, but he does no more, is, again, 2 different brands, 2 different sizes, same stuff. I'm going to put in pure Castile Soap. This is a true soap, not a detergent. And I'm going to put in 1 ounce of this. Now, typically, I like to go a little bit less on the Castile Soap. I just want a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and stick with the original, what I used to do. I don't really need a full 2 ounces, and it doesn't have to be perfect measurement. 2 tablespoons or 1 ounce. Next, hopefully you're making this on your own. There should be no cost to this. Is Compost Tea. And I'm going to put in 1 cup of that. I actually consider it to be my liquid fertilizer that I've done a video on. But either way, I'm going to put in about 1 cup of that right there. I know people are asking questions already while I'm doing this, and I hope I'm going to be answering some of those questions that I can hear coming through this electronic device up here. Now, another ingredient, optional, I will tell you right off the bat that I typically will not utilize this in this recipe. But this is something that Howard uses in his original recipe. Howard's recipe would be considered the blackstrap molasses. Let's do that first. Blackstrap molasses, if you never had it, tastes like black licorice. Very beneficial, very good for you, and it's good for your plants. And I'm going to put in 1 ounce to the 1 gallon jug here. Approximately. And it doesn't have to be perfect. But this is going to get you started. Preppers, I hope you're paying attention to what to put in your arsenal here if you're trying to be prepared and you don't want to spend so much time in the garden battling the 6-legged, 8-legged zombies. That'll give you more time on your perimeter and your front gates, protecting against the 2-legged zombies. Because in hard times, we got a lot of things that we're going to be taking responsibility for. Let me get back to the blackstrap molasses. Optional. Some of these things are optional. Actually, you can do a variation of this. The primary ingredient is that orange oil. But the reason I don't use the blackstrap molasses typically 95% of the time is because, number one, I'm in a habit of not introducing simple sugars into my gardening practice. I have learned, and if it is true, and I'm believing it is, that it has a tendency, introducing simple sugars, to increase the potential for disease setting in on your plants or into your soil. I'm not 100% sure, but right now I'm taking the precautionary measure, and I'm following the Korean natural farming practices, or Jadam, and they typically don't introduce any type of simple sugars. Nothing wrong with it for the plants. The plants get minerals, vitamins, or nutrients from the blackstrap molasses. And the same thing with your compost tea or your organic natural liquid fertilizer. That's the primary reasons we're using these 2 ingredients, or one or the other. So the other reason I don't utilize it is because I have an end product here. And not just a end product, I have an edible end product that you can consume yourself, full of vitamins, full of nutrients, micronutrients and minerals. Utilize it in your baking. What I typically like to do is I like to take a tablespoon of this every morning as my multivitamin. Natural, organic, this particular brand is right there. I'm not in the habit of promoting business, and I'm not trying to gain anybody's support from any business. I'm just letting you know the product. It's Golden Barrel Blackstrap Molasses. I buy it by the gallons, 2 or 3 gallons at a time, which I have on stock, and I just refill this jug right here. So you can choose to do so or not using the blackstrap molasses, and even the Castile Soap. But anyway, let's get back to here. So far we have 2 ounces of orange oil. We have 1 ounce of the Castile Soap, pure Castile Soap. This just happens to be the peppermint, I hate to say flavor, but scent, I guess. 1 cup of your Compost Tea or liquid fertilizer, and 1 ounce of the blackstrap molasses. Then, grab me some water here, and then we're going to fill our jug up here. I'm going to go a little higher, but since I had some in there already, a little bit. But I do want to leave me a little bit of headspace in the top of the jug so that I can thoroughly shake it all up. Okay, and that's it. We have a whole gallon of more natural, organic, non-toxic insect killer pesticide. I bring that up because I want to bring up anyway, this is not a repellent. This recipe here and this orange oil, with this orange oil here, is a contact killer. So once this stuff is sprayed and you get it on your foliage or your plants and it dries, and by drying what I mean is the water evaporates, the orange oil, residual, and Castile soap, molasses, and so forth will remain on the plants. But it will not have any impact, so far as I can tell in the years that I've been doing this, in repelling the insects. To the best of my knowledge, especially the squash bug. So you just shake that up and you are ready to go. Now we're going to talk about, excuse me, I got a bug I think up my nostril here. We're going to talk about these individual items here. In particular, these 3 right here, or we could say these 2. But before I do that, I want to get into the application of this, because that's what people are concerned about. You'll be interested to what I got to say on this. I think a lot of you will. But let's get into the application, because you don't just take this gallon jug here and go out there and pour it in your garden. Now, one of the questions I'm probably hearing coming through this little device is, why in the world don't you just go ahead and mix it up in something like this? Just go ahead and put it in a 1 gallon pressurized sprayer such as this. This is a cheapy one, not like Howard's got. He's got one of the very nice ones, or he did years ago. Well, I don't like utilizing this pressurized sprayer. As a matter of fact, I have found this to cause me more damage and harm and less efficient in utilizing it. Not to mention, there's a lot more waste involved. And we don't want to waste these things, even as economical as this stuff is, and I'm going to show you that, hopefully. I don't want to create waste. But let me go over some of the things why I don't utilize a pressurized sprayer. Now, granted, I got a small garden. It's only about 4,000 square feet, and then I got some fruit trees and some outside container beds and stuff like that. But so I'm over 4,000 square foot, and that's kind of small. I get that for most people. But even if my garden area was double or triple that, I still probably would not utilize this. Let me explain why. Number one, I talked about it's more of a nuisance and cumbersome to me, in particular when we're dealing with the squash bugs. When you go dealing with squash bugs and go out to your garden and you start seeing these guys, well, it's time to do something about it. Well, typically what that's going to mean is going in there, and you're going to have to pull some leaves back because you're checking for eggs or hatched eggs where you got a little group of nymphs, where there might be 30, 40, 50 nymphs under there. And you're hunting these things down because it's time to take action. Well, this thing here requires 2 hands. And not to mention, it's got a pretty short hose. You got this cumbersome 15, 18-inch wand, and you're getting in there and you got to set your tank down fairly close to the plants in the area that you're working with, and you don't have much room to maneuver this wand so that you can utilize your other hand and pull your foliage back. and get to these squash bugs or stink bugs. So that slows me down, and it's tedious. It's not as tedious as hand picking, but it's still tedious. Another thing I don't like about this, and you've probably heard people advising you that when you use any kind of recipe or concoction, is that you want to spray the whole plant down. That is untrue. I don't recommend that. If you do have to spray larger plants and everything, you only want to spray the infested or infected areas of the plant, not the plant in its entirety. Because in doing so, what you're going to do is when you're going in there and spraying that entire plant, because this is a contact killer and most of them are, you're going to also be hitting your beneficials. And people take for granted the beneficial insects in the garden. I have numerous of beneficial insects in my garden nowadays, especially since I stopped, considering using this 1-gallon pressurized sprayer. It comes in contact with those beneficials, it's going to kill them. And those beneficials are there to help you and take care of most of this infestation and keep things in balance. So that's never a good thing. On top of that, you go spraying the whole plant. Your plant is starting to bloom or flower so it can start producing fruit from the pollinators, being pollinated. Well, what I have found in my experience when you do that and you hit those flowers, number one, you could be hitting a bee, that could be inside the a flower or another insect that pollinates, and you're going to kill that. Then what I also observe, I think I do, is my pollination rate drops. And it makes sense to me because what I think is happening is you're contaminating that pollen. The pollinators are still attracted to the flower, but I've noticed when they get to the flowers after I've sprayed, they're not really interested in going in there and collecting that pollen. Taken from a female flower to a male flower or however that stuff works, and my pollination reduces. Less fruit. So that's another reason that I think this causes more damage and I don't like it, because I just want to target my pest insects. So another reason for not spraying down the whole plant and utilizing something like this and keeping it off your foliage, even with this to an extent, even with this recipe, is because after you do so and you apply this once, twice, 3 times, say in a week's time, and you don't get a good watering or foliage watering or a good rainstorm come along to help wash some of that stuff off, what happens is it will start coating the plant's foliage. And that's going to keep the plants or start hindering the plant's ability to breathe, if you will. I can't even pronounce the word. To breathe. So if you do end up, for some reason, spraying down the whole plant with something like a pressurized sprayer, I recommend that you come back in about 2 hours or so and give your foliage a good watering down, at least wash some of that stuff. No harm done, especially with these natural organic products. There's no harm done. These are the all reasons that I don't like utilizing this. Now, so what do I do? What I do here is I'll take this and I'll transfer it into one of these, just a handheld spray bottle. Simple. I do recommend having an adjustable nozzle here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and transfer. And I'm not going to fill this thing up. And hopefully I explain that real quick. Because of my usage of this, I'm going to fill the bottle up to about 1/3, maybe to 1/2. It is very rare that I need a full 32 ounces of this when I go out to the garden and hunting squash bugs or any other type of pest. Cucumber beetles, flea beetles, you name it. It's very rare. Probably 95% of the time when I go to the garden, and I go to the garden with this about every other day, and it's with me just like my sidearm here. I don't go without it because you're going to see some bugs and you just want to get them. So continually to shake up in here as you move along in the garden, and the benefits of this here spray bottle is I got a lot more control now. I got a lot more agility, flexibility. I got a free hand there to pull back foliage, vines, branches, and target individual insects if I want to. And I don't have to go in there and grab them and to pop them, even though that's 100% effective kill rates. Because I guarantee you those pests are seeing you before you see them. And once you go in to reach out for your first one or two so you can pop them in your hand or throw them in your bucket, all the other ones, they start going into scatter mode. They're trying to hide from you. They're going to fly away. So this here becomes way more efficient and effective than hand picking because you get a lot more of them. Because I can sit there and I can squirt, and I don't want a straight stream and I don't want to miss. Now if I'm dealing with the flea beetles or something like that, I'll put it on a little broader, let's get hit, a little bit broader spray pattern to spray my plant down. But when I'm dealing with the squash bugs and grasshoppers and things of that nature, I want a little tighter spray pattern here. I don't want a steady stream, but a pattern of spray. So I can hit these guys from 5 or 6 inches away. I can hit them from 5, 6 feet away. I've done it. I've even shot them out of the air. Very effective. I'll get to that in a minute because I talk about my experiment. So what happens here is this greatly reduced my time in going out there and dealing with these guys, and I'm not killing my beneficials unless I do it by accident, and I do that because when I lift a leaf or pull some foliage back or I don't have my glasses on and I see movement, bam, I get trigger happy, and if I hit that beneficial with this, it kills them as well. So when I squirt these bugs, I squirt them once or twice. Lift a leaf up. If I got a patch of nymphs or, either in first stage or third stage, and they're all still clustered together, 2 or 3 squirts there, 4 or 5, whatever it takes, that's all it takes. I gently let the leaf down, hit another squash bug. He's crawling on a T-post or the cattle panel or a vine. I just give him 1 or 2 squirts, make sure he's wetted down, and I just move on down the line. I don't care what he does at that point in time. So it takes me, I'd say in my garden, it might take me 10, 15 minutes if I want to go through hunting these squash bugs. And once I squirt them, I don't have to get every single one of them because I got a lot more beneficials that are helping me out. Everything's under control. I'm not going to get rid of all of them at the same time. Well, even if I did, it wouldn't matter. If I came back around to where I started and about an hour or 2 later, there'll be more squash bugs there. I mean, they're all around in nature. It ain't my garden that's producing the squash bugs. It's nature. They just come flying in and they like my food better than what's out there. But the whole point of it is not using that gallon sprayer. I got a lot less waste. I got more control over my trigger. So I can do a half pull and I can do a slow pull. And I got control to where I don't inject this stuff into my flowers a lot more. So I'm not hitting my bees, my spiders, and all these things that I don't want to kill that are actually helping me out. This is the reason why. And I can do a whole garden 2 or 3 times this size. I guarantee a lot quicker than anybody could go through there and handpick squash bugs or throwing them in a bucket of soapy water. Just squirt them and move on. Now, how can I say that? Because you're watching this online. And a lot of people have claimed that all these recipes out there and concoctions work. What I did when I first started using this is I came out to my garden. It took about a week and a half to 2 weeks time. And I spent, I'm going to say about 5 or 6 days. Not consistently, but I would spend a morning out there. I'd spend afternoons out there in that hot baking sun or late afternoon into the evening, not dark, but evening. And I went out there to be sure that this recipe actually works as effective as that detergent does. And I'm here to tell you, it does. I have found out for myself, but by my own observance, that I got a 100% kill rate with this stuff. Because I'd go out there and when I start seeing bugs and I pull a leaf back and I'd sit there and squirt them a couple times and then there's skedaddling and I could keep track of 1 to 3 at a time when they sat there. They're going into survival mode. Now I can tell you that it took for a fair amount of them about 60 seconds or less to die. Now, how did I know they were dead? Well, I actually, before I pronounced them dead, I'd go out there and I'd push them with my finger, pick them up by the antenna or the legs in my hand and so forth, and I got no movement, they're dead. So it works. But I will also say this, the vast majority of them, based on my experiment, it took somewhere between 12 to 15 minutes for these squash bugs to die. But there was a fair amount of them as well that I noticed it took somewhere between 22 and 26 minutes to die. I even had one female squash bug. I hit the female and the male. They were mating. One went one way and one went the other. I just followed the female. I couldn't because they got too far apart for me to keep an eye on them. I followed this little gal for an hour and 5 minutes, sitting there baking in the hot sun until I saw her die. And I couldn't understand why in the world it took that long, but it just did. The moral of the story is that I don't care if it takes 1 minute or if it takes one full day, 24 hours, for that squash bug to die. Because during my whole time of observing these squash bugs, from a minute to that hour and 5 minutes, they were all in distress. They were in survival mode, trying to get up top to the plant and hoping the sun would dry them out or something like that. And it didn't matter. They all died, every single one of them. Even the beneficials that I hit by accident. You know, the spiders, they died. My praying mantis, they died. The wheel bugs, the assassin bugs, if I hit them, they end up dying. I've had big grasshoppers, you know, come into my garden while I was doing this experiment, and this one particular one, he got real close, and I squirted him, you know, about 2 times or so, and he jumped up on a T-post. And I was still observing these squash bugs, you know, waiting for them to die. I come back the next morning, he's still on that T-post in the exact same place, stiff as a board, dead as a rock. So it does kill everything that I have shot it with. Japanese beetles, cucumber beetles, flea beetles, the tomato hornworm. Boy, when I squirt them, they're really going crazy and everything. So that's all you got to do is go out there in the morning. Now, typically what I like to do in the mornings, I go out there. I don't water my garden in the mornings. I'm a firm believer in doing that in the evening. If you haven't heard why, that's because, you know, as the water goes into the soil, it's cooler night temperatures. The plants have more opportunity throughout the cooler night to take up the water instead of going out in the morning. Sun comes out and everything evaporates that much quicker. But anyway, I'll come out there, excuse me, and I will do a quick water foliage. I'm just hitting the plants with my water hose here and just stirring things up, because the leaves that are close to the ground, like on some of your squashes, my butternut, cantaloupe, watermelon, zucchini, those things, what happens is these bugs, it gets them worked up and they want to come back up to the top of the leaf. They want to get that morning sun to warm their bodies up and dry off. So it just brings things up and about and makes them more visible to where I can just walk through there and I can see one here and see one there and see one there, and I just go on down the line, each row, each plant, and it's pretty simple, easy, quick, and efficient. And I've proven it to myself, and you need to do the same for yourself, is that it's very effective. So that's how I go about doing it. Now I want to discuss the cost of this, okay, because that's important too. I don't know why I keep shaking that up. I've already made the concoction. So we have we're going to take our 3 ingredients here, okay? The orange oil. What I like about all of this stuff here is it's multi-purpose. So whatever you spend on these products here, and I encourage you to stock up on, once you have proven to yourself that it's worthwhile doing so, and I think even if you didn't, for whatever reason, didn't like these ingredients here in your garden, you're still going to find beneficial uses for it, just as the orange oil. Non-toxic, smells like oranges. Who the hell doesn't like the smell of oranges? So this here will cost you about $25. That's sounding like it's pretty doggone expensive for a 32-ounce bottle. This particular brand here, same exact stuff, probably made in the same building, but it's under a different label, Cost me $23. Now, I'll read the label here. Cold pressed orange oil, home and garden, 100% natural, hundreds of uses. And there are hundreds of uses. Cold pressed orange oil on this one, all-purpose cleaner and air freshener, 100% natural, biodegradable, and non-toxic. Okay? These other uses that they're talking about that I have utilized it in is, number one, is a general purpose household cleaner in the cabin. Use it in my homemade laundry soap. Got your homemade laundry soap and everything. Put an ounce of this orange oil into it and shake it all up. You got a little booster for cleaning power, and you got a natural organic scent in your laundry detergent. Very effective. As far as the household cleaner, what you would do, if you wanted to make a gallon of it, you'd do the same ratio. 2 ounces of orange oil to a gallon of water, and then you can pour it into your containers like this 32-ounce bottle. Now you got a nice cleaner for your kitchen, your bathroom, your toilet, your tub, cleaning the four-wheelers, your vehicles, all sorts of uses. And also, because I'm not spraying it on plants when this is in the cabin as a all-purpose cleaner, you know, sometimes, because I live in the woods, I mean, I got very little open ground here. So I have spiders come in, especially those spiders, you know, in the beginning of the season, and they look a little fuzzy and everything, and you go to swat them, and next thing you know, you got 50, 100, 150 babies scattering about. You ever had that happen when you swat them with a fly swatter or a newspaper or something to disperse of them? I just take that cleaner with the orange oil and the water, and I just squirt. 2 or 3 squirts, and they scatter a little bit. Next thing you know, within probably 30 seconds, no movement. They're all dead. Take a paper towel, wipe them up, throw them in the trash. Ants, it does well on ants. I said it wasn't a repellent, this recipe, but I do squirt this, you know, when I got my household cleaner, the orange oil and water, at the base of my front door or my side deck door, the window sills or something like that. It seems to help in keeping, you know, the wood roaches and ants and, you know, trying to get into the cabin. Wasp. You know how expensive that wasp spray is and stuff like that. You got wasp nests, you just take that cleaner, because you're not putting it on your plants. I don't recommend, and neither does Howard or anybody else, recommend just using the orange oil and water on your plants. Give it some foliage feeding with your compost tea and your molasses, because too much of that orange oil on your plants can have a negative effect and start causing some burning. Maybe it's kind of like too much nitrogen if you ever applied that to your garden. But anyway, wasp nest. Squirt that wasp nest. If you got a bunch of them up there, kills them. Very multi-purpose, the orange oil. So $25 or $23 for a 32-ounce bottle is not much. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Now, Castile Soap. If you're familiar with Castile Soap, you can probably recognize this bottle, you folks out there. Well, I'll say it. Dr. Bronner's, okay? But I want to introduce to some of you Dr. Woods. Evidently, everybody making Castile Soap is a doctor nowadays. But anyhow, all natural, good stuff, healthy, non-toxic. These two happen to be with peppermint. So, and I like the peppermint. Good for your hair, good for bath soap, body wash, dishwashing, laundry, whatever you want to utilize it for. But the reason I want to introduce you to this, I am not being paid for them by this Dr. Woods or anybody else. I just like doing things more frugally. This Dr. Bronner's bottle, I think it even at Wally World will cost you somewhere around $10 for this 16-ounce bottle. You can get a little cheaper if you buy multiple bottles, I think. But a 32-ounce bottle, double the size, $10. Same stuff. So just be mindful of that. You can go on Amazon. Now I got it for $10, I think, because I buy in packages of 3. I bought several packages of 3, and $10 a bottle is what it ends up to. Multi-purpose. In your garden, we utilize the Castile Soap, or I do a little bit in my recipe here. That's originally not mine, but it gives my orange oil a little bit more adhesion, to the bugs and so forth, or wherever I'm applying it to. That's the reason for the Castile soap, and it's non-toxic and organic, natural, more natural. Blackstrap molasses, you can use it, part of the foliage feeding. Your plants will love it. I gave the reasons why I typically do not, and there's your multi-purpose in the garden, or multivitamin, your baking goods, and so forth. Look around. A lot of people have been using blackstrap molasses. Very healthy, very nutritional. So that covers the ingredients. So now let's say we're going to take the higher numbers here. I'm going to say $25 plus another $10, and we only need half of this to equate to this. So let's just go ahead and do this. I'm not advertising them either. $25, 32-ounce bottle of orange oil. $10, we'll say 16-ounce bottle of Castile soap, and approximately $4, $3 to $5 for a 32-ounce bottle of the blackstrap molasses, in which you only need half of for what I'm about to demonstrate here. So let's say 25, 35, and we'll just up this up to $5 and just call it 40 bucks for these three items here. Now we need 2 ounces, 1 ounce, and 1 ounce in a 1 gallon jug of water. This gallon jug of water here is for 32 ounce of these. I'm trying to let you know that when I go to the garden, when things are under control especially, I might use a third of this bottle here. But let's just assume I'll use half or a full bottle. In a season, it would be a very high number if I utilize 10 or 12 of these 32-ounce bottles of my homemade natural organic pesticide in my garden to control my pests, along with the beneficials that are there. That would be a high number. So let's just say it's 12. I've never done that. It's typically around 6 bottles a year to keep things under control for me in a 4,000 square foot garden. But if it was 12 and we get 16 gallons, 32 ounces, 2 ounces to a gallon, that's 16 gallons. 1 ounce of each of these. That's 16 gallons of this. That equates to what? Oh boy. 64? I think that's right. 64. I know it's over 50. 60 32-ounce bottles of this. So if you think about $40 here for these things, and they're multi-purpose, you're getting somewhere around 5+ years of supply for $40. Natural and organic, and very effective, which you don't know that yet until you prove it to yourself. 5 years. So now you can see the cost effectiveness. So for $40, and if you take a 32-ounce bottle of a natural and organic pesticide, already pre-mixed, just like this is, in its own little fancy bottle and its fancy little label in your box stores, how much is that stuff going to cost you? $4, $5, $6, $7 for a 32-ounce bottle? I've seen crazy stuff out there. And the same thing with your household cleaners. If you do just the orange oil and water, mixing that up, you're still getting 64 bottles, of these 32-ounce sprayer bottles here. How much is that? Tilex, 409, Windex, Mr. Clean. I don't know all the brands out there. That stuff doesn't come into my life anymore. 64 bottles. How much is that stuff for a nice little 32-ounce bottle in your grocery stores and box stores? Same thing. $3, $4, $5 for one of these, and you're getting 64. That equates to less than 50 cents a bottle. For $40, 16 gallons, 64 32-ounce bottles of your natural, organic, good-smelling home cleaner or your pesticide, bug control in your garden. Preppers, anybody, if you're looking to add to your arsenal of things, because the benefits of this is that you got more time doing other chores and tasks instead of spending so much time trying to hand pick or control, these bugs with toxic detergents and other concoctions that really don't work, in my opinion, based on my experience. I'm not saying there's none out there. You may have one already. I'm just giving you what I do based on requests of neighbors and so forth, and some of the comments and everything. This is how I go about doing it. Very fast, very effective, and very efficient. I almost forgot. I want to cover something before we go. The reason I mix this up, pre-mix it up into a 1 gallon jug of its own, we know the reasons why I don't use the gallon sprayer, is that the combination of utilizing the Castile Soap and the orange oil, it has this weird effect. It's and I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but it's I'm going to call it congealing or coagulation, something like that, when it's mixed together. So I only fill up what I need in my bottle here, and then if I don't utilize it, whatever I put in my my 32-ounce bottle, I'll come back and I'll pour it into my jug so I can wash out my bottle and I can clean my trigger assembly here. If you leave this stuff when you get done in your 32-ounce bottle, for this one particular one here, and this ain't nothing expensive, but it does have a little bit of a filtering tip on the end of the straw. And that gumming up, what it does when it coagulates, I guess, or congeals, it'll clog up that straw. And the other thing it does, it will clog up the trigger mechanism up in here, and there's a spring in there that when you pull the trigger and you release, the spring's pushing your trigger out. And when it gets all gummy up in there, it only goes about halfway on the retraction, and then you're just getting these little spurts and it's not working right, and you think your cheap spray bottle is so cheap that it doesn't even last for a day or two. So it's best just to pour this back into your jug, or at least take your trigger assembly on, get you a little bucket, glass of water, and give it about 15 squirts of clean water to flush your pesticide out of your straw. Or wash out your 32-ounce bottle, put a little water in there, shaking it up, dump it, put a little bit more water in there, and flush your straw. I wanted to bring that up before I forgot. That's the reason why I go ahead and put it in here and mix up a gallon's worth, so that I got something to dump back into, and I can clean out my 32-ounce bottle. Because as you're going through the garden, it's a good idea to keep shaking this up, I don't know, every 5-10 minutes. You just want a good shaking with that orange oil and everything mixed up nice and blended. When you go to squirt your bugs, squirt them, move on, get about your day. That's what I do, folks, and I hope you can see the cost effectiveness, the multi-purpose, the cleaner, more natural and organic method by utilizing these ingredients, which you can change up yourself a little bit, change it up how you want, and maybe there's something else you'd like to add to it. This is the basis of what I do right here, and I hope you find it just as effective and beneficial as I have. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. If you found anything beneficial in this video or in this information, just pass on the information with other people. Go down there and share with somebody, or pass it on to your family members after you give it a try, because if you're like me, you like to try things out first before you pass it on to people that you care about or looking to you for some sort of advice. Have a nice day. May all your branches become full of fruit. Don't forget to share, and I'll catch you next time. Hua.